Hello. This is, let me get the preamp up. Is there a preamp here I can use? Okay. So, oh boy, that's reverby. Hey, how's that? Better? Oh, how's that? Okay. So, that's a little annoying. How's that? Better? Okay. All right. So, this is a video on John Bonham's drums. It's sort of a vague video, but there's some good information here. I've never seen John Bonham's drums. Friends of mine have gone to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when the Green Sparkles were there and they saw them. And I did meet a fellow some years ago, this was before the internet when you'd have to talk on the phone and things, who claimed to have John Bonham's Amber kit, which was auctioned off back in the early 90s. Anyway, but so we'll start this sort of chronologically, okay? So you'll read in a lot of the books that I think some folks will say that John Bonham's drums, his folks bought him a Premier kit, which is probably the case. But when you'll hear other folks say, when I saw Bonham play whatever, he was playing a Blue Sparkle Ludwig kit. Well, by and large, consensus is the first kit, at least, he played with Led Zeppelin, was a Green Sparkle 22 13 16 drum kit with a 5x14 Ludwig Superphonic 400 model snare, which he used to record Led Zeppelin 1. So everything you hear on there, Your Time Is Gonna Come, Days Confused, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, all these things were recorded on this smaller 22 13 16 Ludwig drum set, which to me the cymbals actually do sound like Zildjians too, my opinion. Anyway, remember a lot of the sound. It's interesting that the sound of those drums, even on Zeppelin 1, sound like Bonham drums, like open tuning, beefy. It's just the way that you sort of tune them up. It's not a 26 on that record, but, the bass drum sounds beefy. The snare drum kind of sounds like a 6.5, but it's a 5. So supposedly. This is all what I've heard, so I'm giving you the best information I can. Okay. So, but there's an interesting thing about those drums that I have heard, which you probably have too, because it's in books that I've read many of, like us all Bonham Zeppelin geeks, that the Green Sparkle kit was supposedly sold or given to somebody who then sold it to somebody else, an outfit, I think in California, maybe in England, I forget, but somebody either stripped the covering off and then painted it black, the Green Sparkle covering, or just painted over the black. But there was something very interesting I remember a few years ago. I can't remember if it was the whole kit or if it was just the bass drum. It wasn't that long ago on eBay. They're like, somebody painted this Green Sparkle Keystone Badge Ludwig kit or bass drum. Might have just been the bass drum black. So I took my painstaking to get the paint off. Well, that conceivably could have been Bonham's drum. In any case, what happened is you'll see then they recorded the record. Then Zeppelin, I think they actually went on a tour of Scandinavia, a quick couple weeks tour of Scandinavia before they recorded the record. And on that tour, Bonham actually played a rented Slingerland kit, which you can see. I have pictures here I will bring up. Don't mind me, people. There we go. Okay, cool picture. I actually own this photograph. I have a framed copy downstairs. There's a fella named Jorgen Angel who took these pictures, who sells them online. Wonderful guy. I bought it from him. He shipped it here to me. It was like 100 clams. It's a nice, genuine black and white print. Anyway, in this picture you can see clearly Slingerland. Okay, this is a 60s Slingerland kit. It's hard to say what the color is. Judging by the tone, the relationship to other colors, I would say it's safe to say it is not Silver Sparkle and not Champagne. I would guess that it is either blue, green, or red. My opinion. Probably green, people would say, but whatever. So, but anyway, it's interesting to note that, in my opinion, these are Zildjian cymbals. Okay, you can see Roger's cymbal stand there. Oh, God love them. Alrighty, so, and of course, here's the Superphonic. From where I'm sitting, it looks to be alloy, lead alloy, not brass, because the lugs don't look to be the heavier cast. Anyway, that aside. So on this tour, he played a Slingerland, which, of course, then they have another picture here, which I can bring up for you if I can find it. But it'd be interesting to find this picture, if we could find it, in color, because I don't think it exists. I've never seen a color picture of him playing this Slingerland kit well, I have it here somewhere. There's a picture of, you can find a couple pictures out there. There's a picture on the internet, well, it's out there, a couple of them where it's shown from the front, where you can see a Slingerland logo on this kit. And of course, as we drum people know, this is a Slingerland kit. All right, so, okay, so then they record Led Zeppelin 1, Olympic Studios, 1968 October, with Glyn Johns, who has his 3-mic setup. And I think Glyn Johns also, he doesn't talk about a lot, but he, I think, puts the drums up on a platform, like a wood-built plywood platform as well. There's a couple of, well, there's at least one picture I found of the Eagles recording there in 72 or 73 where Henley's drums are actually up on a platform, which looks to be about 18 inches off the ground. Okay, so, and there's another interesting thing. There was an article that I read years and years ago. I don't know if it was in, it might have been in Modern Drummer, or it might have been in a magazine article, but it was John Paul Jones recounted that when they were recording, he didn't specifically say when it was, but that Bonham used to cut up newspaper and put it in his bass drum. This is right out of John Paul Jones' mouth, okay? So in this video, we'll talk a lot about Bonham's bass drum muffling, because Bonham did, no matter what anybody tells you, he did muffle his drums, okay? He did, well, we'll talk about his bass drum. He muffled it. He almost invariably put a felt strip on the batter head, and on the reso head, you'll see pictures of what I think is a homemade muffling ring, which is very common now past 20 years with different drum companies. They all do it now. They put the ring on the inside of the head to muffle it and kill some of the over-ring. Back in those days, you had to do it manually. They either call it a Ritchie ring or a Jerry ring or a sock ring. Anyway, so I have some pictures that I will show. But anyway, so they went out on the tour after they recorded the record, and they went with Vanilla Fudge, and Vanilla Fudge, Carmine Appice, or Carmine Appice, or Carmine Appice. I think he finally used to say in the 70s, just call me Carmine Appice. Had a big Ludwig thermogloss kit. He endorsed them. And he had you'll see pictures of it, especially when you see if you see that video from late 68, Keep Me Hanging On, when they're doing that tune on one of the shows. It's pretty cool because they're moving and they look really like, it's kind of interesting to watch because they're all, I think it's very kind of funny to watch, but they rocked. Vanilla Fudge rocked. Anyway, you see him with this kit. Bonham saw the kit, was like, oh my God, those are great drums. And Carmine called up Ludwig and got him a deal, as the story goes. So Bonham got pretty much the same sizes as Carmine did. Now Carmine, from what I remember reading, had 226s, which were 16-inch deep. Remember, for 1968, that was a deep drum. The standard, up until the early 80s, was 14-inch deep. But Bonham's were 26 by 14, the depth of which, again, I'll talk about later, some conspiracy theories. And then Bonham got a 9 by 13, a 12 by 14, so 14-inch diameter, 12-inch deep, 16 by 16, 16 by 18, which then Bonham sold to somebody you'll see in the book. One of the books, he says he sold them to somebody for a fiver, like £5 or whatever. And Paul Thompson then bought them from this other fella for like 400 pounds, British sterling. And then Paul Thompson to this day still owns them. Anyway, that kit Bonham used more or less, they say, from like 69, early 69. In fact, I think one of the first times they used that kit was when you see the Danish TV show. The black and white footage of Zeppelin playing where everyone's sitting down Indian style watching. Bonham, I think when he first got the kit, they say when he first got the kit, he did set up the 226s at a couple shows. There's a show from San Diego. You can actually see at the show, he's got both bass drums set up. And in that promo video from Japan, you can see both bass drums. But essentially, I think what happened was the rest of the guys, Jimmy Page and the guys, were like, listen, buddy, you can't play 2 bass drums. It's got to be one. So they got rid of it. But Paul Thompson said, he did confirm that when he got the drums, it was a 9 by 13 and actually then a 10 by 14 because the previous owner cut the drum down. I remember when I first got the Led Zeppelin, the Thunder drums, or one of those books, I saw the rack tom. I was like, oh my God, that's got to be it, because it was an 8-lug 10 by 14, 8-lug top, 8-lug bottom, 10 by 14-inch rack tom. So I got a hold of Paul Thompson on the internet. He was nice enough to confirm and say, yes, somebody cut the drum down. The previous owner didn't want a 12 by 14, so he had it professionally cut down. They moved the re-ring and everything. But Thompson did confirm it was a 9 by 13 and then, now at this point, a 10 by 14 which I have the photograph here, which I'm sure everybody has seen, of the Thompson later, right here. Wonderful guy. Of course, John Thompson is Zildjian's here. Here it is. This is a 10 by 14, was a 12 by 14 that was cut down. Again, remember with Ludwig on their 10 by 14s, they kept them 6-lug top and bottom, till I think the early mid-90s. And then starting around then, they started putting 8 lugs top and bottom on their 10 by 14s, which of course when you see the Ludwig reissues, when they started about 95-ish, around then, all have 8 lugs top and bottom, which makes the drum heavier. So remember, the reissues actually have technically speaking, the wrong amount of lugs on the 10 by 14. But this one has 8 top and bottom because it was a 12 by 14, sort of a Scotch tenor drum-ish size, 12 by 14, which wasn't a very common, at least by this time, late 60s drum. Usually they were 12 by 15. Anyway, 12 by 14 cut down, butchered to a, can you see me there? Butchered to a 10 by 14. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so, and then here's an interesting picture of Paul Thompson playing them, I think in 73. I wrote 73 on there, but here they are. 26 by 14, 26 by 14. You can see the 9 by 13. And you can also see what would be the 10 by 14 over there. You see here's the whole area. Now it's interesting to me, if you kind of look at this picture, it does sort of look like the drum in this picture is still 12 by 14. But Paul, I'll believe you. I'm sure the guy before you cut it down. But it kind of looks suspiciously like when you got him, it might have still been 12 by 14. But anyway, check it out. So 16 by 16, 16 by 18. Here he is playing the drums back in the day. Clearly a 9 by 13. God bless Paul Thompson for having them. He's a very cool guy. Played with Roxy Music, very talented man. Okay, so and you'll see here, I have some other pictures you'll see. This is taken at the Kinetic Playground. You got to see my Kinetic Playground video. I took a bunch of, well, I took footage there before they were tearing it down. I took video stills because the video was horrible, so I made stills. Anyway, this is Bonham there. Clearly see, in my opinion, his 602s. And here's his 26, 12 by 14, 16 by 18. I think when he first would play these, it was a 16 by 18. He wouldn't do 2 floor toms. He just did the 18 and then later on brought both floor toms out. Even though, and I went on with this before, when Bonham first came to the United States before he got hooked up with Ludwig from Carmine, here is, now you can look these up, Gonzaga University. You can find them mostly on Zeppelin's site. This is a 20, well this is a, I think it's a 22, 13, 16, 18, although someone said it might have been a 24, 13, 16, 18, Black Diamond rental, okay? So he played these for that first tour. This is very good. There are a bunch of pictures of this kit, not too close up. But again, yes, indeed, Bonham on a Black Diamond rental kit, okay? Gonzaga University is usually where you see the pictures of it from. And then, of course, he hooked up with Carmine and got the thermoglass. All right. So, and here's another, well, I showed you that picture of the Kinetic Playground, where Bonham, and you can see it on the Danish TV show, he pretty much just has this setup too. Now, there is an interesting thing on the size of those thermoglass drums sometimes. There are sometimes in pictures where you swear it's a 15-inch rack tom. I mean, because remember, Carmine's were slightly different sizes, 26 by 16, according to Carmine, a 12 by 15 for sure. And when you see the footage of them playing, even when they're doing this and some other stuff online, you can see clearly it's a big tom. In a lot of the Bonham stuff, well, sometimes it really does look to be like a 15-inch diameter thermoglass tom, not the 12 by 14, but a 12 by 15. Although, but the acid test is, if you see in these pictures, on this Ludwig Atlas snare stand, if you put a 15-inch drum in there, it really won't fit a 15. A 15 you can get in there, but it won't have this upward angle. It'll be almost completely flat, okay? So this is definitely, at least in this picture, most of them you see, it is a 12 by 14 because the snare does fit in that snare stand, okay? So that's a good way of looking at it. This, by the way, is a very good picture of Bonham. You don't see it often. Know what I'm saying? Look at the pants on Dudesicle back here. Actually, look at the pants on Dudesicle right here. All right, so that's a neat little picture. So that's, again, sometimes there's sizes. I'd swear in some of the pictures and footage stuff, it does look like a 15 thermoglass with Bonham. And then even in some of the pictures, too, I would swear that his bass, and sometimes the bass drum is a 16-inch deep. It just looks like it. I don't have any of those pictures here. If you look in the big Led Zeppelin, it's a black book by Neil Preston. Some of the pictures there, it does look like one of the bass drums is a 16-inch deep. Anyway, but Paul Thompson insisted they were 14-inch deep. Actually, you know what's funny about it? I want to say at one point I got an email back from Thompson and said, oh, no, of course they're 16-inch deep, and then another time 14. But, you know, a lot of these guys that are really good famous drummers don't kind of give a shit about their gear. Remember, Stuart Copeland called his drums, yeah, I played Tama Wonder Star, or whatever it was called. They don't care, you know what I mean? It's geeks like myself that care. All right, so... anyway, so the muffling, let's get right now to the muffling ring and the bass drums. Starting really with, well, the pictures you see of the thermoglass kit, there's a lot of pictures where, you know, I think Bonham used a homemade Ritchie ring that I talked about. And here's a couple pictures. Here's the thermal, okay? Here's the thermal. Now he's got the two floor toms, okay? But look, do you see this? Now people, the uninitiated, will say, it's just shadows. End of story. They march on. Well, yeah, this is a shadow, right? Shadow here, and then another shadow here. That's why it's darker, because it's getting double shadowed. But that is not a shadow, folks. If you can see that, that is a Ritchie Ring, muffling ring, homemade ringy ring thing, okay? So, and there's a better picture of it. You can find this online, okay? Find this picture on. You know what's so funny about this? This picture actually kind of looks like it's from the same show as the one I just had up. Maybe it's not. Well, it's not because here he is, a long sleeve shirt on here. Anyway, all right. So here's the Ritchie Ring. Check this out online. You'll find this picture. If you type in Bonham thermoglass, you'll see this picture. You can see these pictures. Okay. Can't really see the ring here. Let's get that out. But here's a really good picture. So you got this. Here's a really good picture of it. I'll show you the really, really good picture of it. It's here. Okay? See this? This is, look here, you can very well see it. Okay? Very well. Now, almost in this picture, it actually almost looks like it's on the outside of the drum, which conceivably it could have been. But anyway, this is a very good picture. Okay, there the thermoglass. Okay, you can see the Rogers mount there. And of course the telescopic spurs that for whatever reason came on as 26 by 14 thermoglasses. So that's a very good picture too, which you can find online. Let me try to make that bigger, but it's hard to see. It gets pixelated. Anyway, so that's very interesting. Okay, that is something to think about. Okay, there it is. My first evidence of the ring. Okay, then we move on to the green sparkle. Green sparkle drums, again, supposedly, according to this fella named Bill Thompson that I had become acquainted with back in the 90s, who was kind enough to make a video of his drums that he sent me, and he said he sent to a couple other people. He said he sent it to other people, including Alex Van Halen. Now this guy was a super nice guy. I think he passed away. But super nice guy. He claimed he had the amber kit that was auctioned off in the early 90s as part of a charity. And in fact, I have a picture of it here that he took. Okay, I have the video. In the video, it shows these and stuff. And Townsend said the kit he in fact got was the 26, 10 by 14, 16 by 16, 6 by 18, and 18 by 20 floor. And he said there was also an 8 by 10 inch snare drum, amber, that came with it. But this is what he claimed. I heard from other people that said that Mr. Townsend it wasn't accurate what he was talking about. But anyway, I'll say that. I'm just telling you what I heard from Mr. Townsend. Anyway, back to the green sparkle. Bill Townsend told me that the kit comprised of a couple green sparkle kits, but that at least on one of the kits it was two, again, double bass drum that were delivered to him when he got them new. 9 by 13, 10 by 14, and a 12 by 14, according to Mr. Townsend again. 16 by 16, 16 by 18, 18 by 20. All right, that's just what I was told. So anyway, let's get back to the Ritchie Ring. Now you'll see it on the green sparkle. Alrighty, let's check it out on the green sparkle. Okay, here. This is a good picture of it. Okay, this is taken, I think, in 71. Okay, or 72, probably 72, because I think Jimmy Page originally got the double neck to actually perform Stairway to Heaven live. Okay, so anyway, here we go. You can see the green sparkles. in my opinion, clearly giant beat, at least this guy, Peisty. Anyway, but look at that. Ritchie Ring, Jerry Ring, Rudy Ring, Ringy Ring. Okay, isn't that cool? That's what he'd use. He'd use a felt strip on the batter side, and then this ring on the Reza side, at least live. Again, my feeling is that he used cut-up newspaper at least a couple occasions in the studio. And again, come here if I showed you this picture. Did I talk about this? Anyway, so here we are. Green sparkle. Let's get another angle before I get disjointed and distracted. Ah, here's a good one. You can really see it here, okay? This is almost as vivid as the other picture that I showed you of the thermo kit in one of those pictures. You can really see it. Now you can see the reflection of the chrome here because Bonham's bass drum heads, at least for the thermo and the green sparkle, were smooth white. They weren't coated. So anyway, this really in a certain way kind of does look like the Ritchie Ring is actually on the outside of the bass drum here, which, you know, we weren't there. Could have been. I don't know, but definitely on the inside. But you can clearly see it. See the muffling ring on that drum. It is confirmed by me, I think. Okay? So, then we go back to, and of course Bonham supposedly used the green sparkle kit. He used supposedly the thermo kit when they recorded Zeppelin 2 and Zeppelin 3-ish. But remember, starting like Zeppelin 2, Zeppelin 3-ish, Zeppelin 4-ish, pretty much everything recorded on Presence was recorded in one shot in 75 in Munich, and everything for the Into the Outro was recorded in 1978 in Copenhagen. I think in Copenhagen. Sweden. I think that's Copenhagen. Copenhagen, Denmark? Something. You know, I'm such a melonhead, I can't remember. I can tell you where it is on the map, but I can't think of it. Polar Studios, built by ABBA in 1970, something or other. That's where they recorded the outdoor. Anyway, but for like Physical Graffiti, Zeppelin 2, Zeppelin 3, Zeppelin 4, around that time, they'd kind of just record a bunch of stuff, and then they, well, by and large, they would record intending to put on a record, but sometimes they'd hold other songs out. Like No Quarter was supposed to be on Zeppelin 4, supposedly, as was a couple of the other ones. Since I've Been Loving You was recorded for Zeppelin 2, then they held over for Zeppelin 3. Anyway, here's a cool picture of Zeppelin in the studio, I think recording Since I've Been Loving You. Okay, you can find this picture online, a bigger version of it. Here's a Hammond B3. Here's John Paul Jones Fender jazz bass over here, or Precision, I'm not sure whichever one he was using. Here's a nice late 60s, early 70s chair we all remember, made of plastic. Here are Bonham's drums. Here's Jimmy Page's Les Paul. Okay? Anyway, Bonham's drums. What do you notice here? You can see a mic up here, you can see a mic over here, but the important thing, well, there's a couple important things. You'll notice here, you just see bass drum, rack tom, floor tom, not two floor toms. To me, it looks like we see in the live picture from or a couple of the live pictures, like from Danish TV or Kinetic Playground, 26, 14, 18. That's what I think I'm looking at. But very importantly, one ride cymbal, one crash cymbal. If you listen to Since I've Been Loving You, if you listen to that recording of Zeppelin 2, you really only hear one rack tom, one floor tom, and what sounds like one crash the whole time. I think this is when they were tracking that baby. So that's actually a very interesting picture. That's Olympic Studios, you can see. If you've ever seen other pictures like that Rolling Stone stuff from Olympic Studios, that's this guy here. Okay? Very interesting photograph. You can look it up. These photographs have sort of started to come out a little bit. Isn't that kind of neat? I think that's very cool. It's funny, you don't really see a mic on the bass drum proper, so they're probably still mic'd the drums up, or maybe they already recorded, use the mics for something else, but again, you can see this actually looks like a microphone over here by the hi-hat. Here's looks like a piping hot U47 over here, and then I'm not sure what this guy is up here. But anyway, that's an interesting picture. And I almost forgot. The money shot of this is, remember I told you about the interview where John Paul Jones talked about cut-up newspaper in the bass drum. Well, to me, this looks very much like something that's settled in the bass drum. In this picture, to me, in the thermoglass kit, that, to me, I think is very much good kind of proof of cut-up newspaper in the bass drum. My opinion, okay? It is my opinion. But check it out. You can find these pictures online. All right. And what else we have? So now we have, then Bonham, you know, and anyway, this Ritchie Ring, this ringy thing, that Bonham had. Hello. Madeline, I'll have Mimi calling when she gets it. See you, bye. Alright, this Ritchie Ring thing, disconnect that telephone. That's a real phone call. I just, I wish I had staff to help me. The Ritchie Ring, you'll see it clearly on the thermogloss and on the green sparkle, like I just showed you, but also on the amber Vistalite. Here. Okay? This is a clip, this is a still, or a picture taken from when they recorded, this is, the song remains the same. You can see the piping hot U47s, U67s that Eddie Kramer's using to record them. And the taped, the one microphone's for the auditorium, Madison Square Garden, the other one's for the record, for the proper recording. Same here. You see, I think this guy here, this Shure microphone is for the auditorium. This RE20 is for the recording. Although they probably also fed that in the theater. Anyway, so what do you notice here? You can clearly see the Ritchie Ring. People say, oh, it's a shadow. It's not. Trust me, folks. That is a Ritchie Ring, even on the amber Vistalite. Interesting thing that always bugged me a little about the amber Vistalite. Every picture you ever see of the amber Vistalite with this logo is you can see when they painted this head on, the logo, the Ludwig logo that says like Ludwig DB1000, whatever, is at the top of the head, sort of. Slightly off kilter, about the 1230 position. That's an interesting Ludwig geeky thing. Okay, anyway, Ritchie Ring here, and it's a great picture too. I don't have a picture. On the green sparkly, there's a couple shots where you can clearly see the felt strip. I couldn't find the pictures online. I have a couple books, but here you can clearly see the felt strip in the amber Vistalite. Okay, that's a felt strip on the batter head, and then a muffling ring here. Otherwise it's very hard if you don't have a felt strip, and then a little muffling on the reso head. It's very hard. The bounce back you get from a 26 is massive. So not only for the sound, but also for the control of your pedal. Okay, all right, and of course we have Robert Plant, the porn star. All right, so we'll get you out. All right, so what else we had? Oh, here's an interesting thing. The Atlanta show, they played in the 73 tour. Before they put, this is interesting, before they put the 3-ring logo on the bass drum, here you go. This is them in Atlanta. What do you see there? That says Ludwig. Look at that. So for the first show, they didn't have the 3-ring on there. That actually says in that big sort of gaudy 70s, early 80s Ludwig, not the little teeny one you see on the thermogloss or even the green sparkle, but this is like that really big sort of, you can see that? Well, again, I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see it. Here's my pointer. Right there, Ludwig. So type in Ludwig Atlanta, Led Zeppelin Atlanta. You'll clearly see the Ludwig logo, which I always thought was interesting. There are people too. Move along, lad, our speed. All right. Bonham then, of course, used the amber Vistalite 1973 tour and then 1975 when they came back to America. And here's an interesting picture from 1975 tour. This is Minneapolis. Somebody took. You can see I think it's Market Square Arena? I forget. Anyway, this is taken from behind. You can find this online. Okay. Here's the ultra big pixelated version. Okay. Bonham's monitors. Here's his kit set right up. See his Speed King pedal. I gotta put this back down though. Bonham, because the pixelation. But Bonham really loved using Rogers hardware. I think he liked using a Rogers Throne. I think, from what I hear, this actually kind of looks like a regular Ludwig one with that center pipe and the. But anyway, I heard that he liked using a Rogers Throne, which that does actually look like a Rogers Throne. That might just be the center shaft. And then here's clearly a Rogers hi-hat stand. Anyway, and he did, of course, definitely early on, love the Rogers Swan Leg cymbal stands. But then he went to these Ludwig Atlas and later Hercules, I suppose. But anyway, this is a very interesting picture. So if you type in Led Zeppelin Indianapolis, you will find a larger version of this picture. It's a very cool picture. I wish they had it for Madison Square Garden. There is an interesting picture I found of them playing Kezar Stadium. I can't find it anymore. I haven't been able to find it since I saw it, but you could clearly see Bonham cymbals, all 2002s, except for his 24-inch ride, which is clearly a brand spanking new 24-inch giant beat with the black logo. People always, even Paistes literature will say, we got rid of the giant beat in 1971 when we introduced the B8 alloy 2002. That's not true, though, because you will see some giant beats with black logos with serial numbers on up through 1974. In fact, I think my friend Bob might even have a giant beat with a 1974 stamp on it. I've held a 1973 black label stamp. By the way, the reissues they came out with in 05 have the black label logo that more or less design that they used from 72 to at least 74. And of course, as we all know, 1971 and earlier, 67, Giant Beats have a white logo at the 9 o'clock position. Anyway, that's more of Peisty, Ludwig-y sort of freaky stuff. Anyway, this is a great picture. If you can find it, find the higher res version. All right. And then Bonham, also from Ludwig. Oh, I'm going to show you one more thing about the amber Vistalite. The original amber Vistalite, this is not from the kit I had, which I sold. Anyway, this is the original. The original inlay that came with the amber Vistalite was gold silk. Okay, sometimes you'll see blue silk or red silk, or I think bronze silk, Ludwig. Anyway, it was kind of like a metallic finish that Ludwig used for a while. Anyway, but the inlays for amber Vistalite, the original, were gold silk. Okay, this is a picture of one. And of course, I think starting in the mid-late 70s, they switched it to gold sparkle, which the reissues then have gold sparkle. But if you really want to be Bob authentic, the gold silk is the way to go because this is a genuine original. Okay? Okay, so, and then Bonham, of course, Bonham did get other Vistalite kits from Ludwig. And of course, they say over the years, Bonham, he's he had all kinds of cash and stuff. I mean, I'm sure, they say he had a bunch of Gretsch kits. He probably had a whole room full of different cool kits, Gretsch and otherwise. But here's a picture of Bonham playing at his house back in the day. Of course, here's Bonham wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt. God love him. This is a sort of a quadruplusy Concert Tommy, yes, Concert Toms, Ludwig kit, black and white swirl. You can clearly see these are Evita Zildjians. This is after Evita Zildjian in the early mid-70s went to the bowl-shaped, gongy Evita Zildjian types, at least with their 18s, 19s, and 20s. Their 17s to me were always good. And then hats. Now here, it's my opinion, of course, these are Zildjians. In the higher res of this picture, you can clearly see the Evita Zildjian logo here. Anyway, it looks like 14-inch hats and an 18-inch crash. Over here, though, this is a Peisty. There's other pictures where you can clearly see the 2000, well, it looks like a 2002. But this is an interesting picture. Here's Platinum Records. Here's a picture that Bonham has of himself. It's a picture where he's coming out of a club or something. He has this same sort of beard. He might actually just have the mustache, but he has a... Anyway, so for the diehard Bonham geek, look it up. But these are great pictures. This is him at his house playing a black and white swirl Ludwig, what looks to be a quadruplus. And here is another picture of him playing it, probably taken the same day. So you can see concert toms. And, God, it even looks like his stick here might have a nylon tip. Okay, and then, see, this looks like he has Levi's on, and it looks like he has a nice little hat. Anyway, so you can see his Platinum Records over here. And here, this looks to be a you can see Peisty here, it looks to be a 2002 to me. And it actually looks like to be a 22, my opinion. All right, so, let me get over here. Okay, what else do we have? And then he had one in Bonham size, or at least one in Bonham sizes. I don't know, I wasn't there, but this is what I've been told. It was auctioned off or sold to McFleetwood. 26, 10 by 14, 16 by 16, 16 by 18. Although this drum, to me, suspiciously looks like a 20. So this might be a 20-inch floor tom. Although, remember, with the 20-inch floors, the depth was 18, not 16. Yeah, I think that could be. But I also think the 20-inch floors had 4 legs. So maybe not. Anyway, but it does look a heck of a lot bigger than the 16 here. Anyway, but this kit was never owned but never played by Bonham. See this right here? See the Ludwig logo there? That one's blue. Sometimes they were green. I think sometimes they were red, too, on the white heads. But anyway, green, blue, black sometimes. This thing here on the ringy Vistalite one, this is up here upside down. That's an interesting factoid, which I said before. Okay. And again, here he is on his Slingerland's 1968 Scandinavia tour. Again, Jorgen Angel took that picture. I think I've gone through all my pictures. Yes, I have. Okay. And then anyway, so he supposedly received, and Jeff Ochiltree talks about this a lot, a Silver Sparkle kit in 1975. Now remember, Jeff Ochiltree, I don't think Jeff Ochiltree started doing anything with Bonham until like halfway through like the 77 tour. That's what I understand. Again, I wasn't there. Jeff Ochiltree, nice guy. But anyway, according to him and other sources, Bonham got a Silver Sparkle Ludwig kit in 1975, which he supposedly then took to Munich when they recorded Presence at Musicland Studio. And you played those for the record. And you can kind of hear, if you listen to Presence, you can hear that the rack tom sounds bigger and deeper, especially like the fills he does around Achilles' last stand. And in T for One, when he plays, dum dum boom, boom dum. I mean, that sounds like a bigger drum. It sounds like when he's playing like the Stainless 15, Anyway, and then so he played it, but supposedly never gigged with the silver. I mean, nobody has any pictures of it. Just recorded presence. Bill Townsend said too that he also recorded in through the outdoor with the silver sparkle as well. Now there is a picture taken, which I have here somewhere. I have it in one of my videos of there's a promo shot taken when Zeppelin was recording in through the outdoor at Abba's Polar Studio. It's Stockholm. That's what it was, Stockholm, Sweden. Okay. And you can see, it does kind of look like, and the picture's kind of so blurry, you can't really tell. I mean, it kind of looks like the Stainless, although you heard he never recorded with the Stainless, but it could be, I guess. From a distance, you can't really see the mock, you just can't tell if it's mock lug Stainless or if it's regular, 12 by 15 silver sparkle. Bill Townsend always said it was the silver sparkle. Anyway, but you can also in that picture see a silver, well, let's say the silver sparkle or the Stainless set up in the middle of the room, and then off kind of to the left, and the timbales, so you can actually see his green sparkle is set up too. That's an interesting picture if you can find it. I'll put a link in this video to a picture of that, which if you haven't found it, but it's pretty cool. There's a high res one out there somewhere. Anyway, then, and an interesting thing too, like Bonham, his rack tom with that Stainless kit had mock lugs, just his rack tom, and the smaller mock lugs, the ones you'd see on a 9x13 or 10x14, not the long ones you see on the margin drum. The rest of those drums had separate classic lugs. It's funny, in a couple books you'll see, and online people say, oh, and a Stainless had all mock lugs. Well, it did. Now that's not neither here nor there. I just think if somebody were to publish that, they should get that right. And then for the 1980 tour, I think they called it Zeppelin Over Europe, he went back to a 10x14 inch rack tom. So when you see pictures of him playing in Europe, 1980 before he passed away, it's a 10x14, not the 12x15. And Bill Townsend also said, too, that Bonham, the kit he was going to get from Ludwig for the 1980 American tour was a 24, 13, 16, 18 in black sparkle. Again, this is just what Bill Townsend told me. Wonderful guy, God rest his soul. May or may not be true. I'm just relaying what I have heard. But again, anyway, so that's my info on Bonham's drums. I don't think there's anything else I can think of there. But, the funny thing is I will post that picture taken from Polar Studios. Apparently took the promo picture because the studio, I guess, was just finished for the studio when Zeppelin was in the recording. So that's actually a cool picture. So look down in the description. I'll put a link to that on there. Okay, I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I guess that's it. Anyway, I hope you're having a good weekend. I got to save this guy. How do I save it? I'm going to have to stop the recording. Anyway, thank you so much. Thanks for watching my videos.